Hey everyone, welcome back with Being on Mac, where today we are once again continuing our playthrough of WWE Smackdown. Here comes the pain. And we're doing our redemption run, Kane, year 2 here, and we're already world champion. And obviously the goal is to hold it until WrestleMania and, redeem ourselves from last year in which we didn't even have a match at WrestleMania. So after what Sean pulled last month, yeah, I'm definitely going to kick this dude's ass. Oh, I didn't think it was actually going to transition to a fight. And I love how Sean isn't even in the outfit that he was in a minute ago. Must have pulled my mask out of my back pocket too. But yeah, there's some big news in the wrestling world. I'm sure pretty much everybody has already heard about it, but if somehow you haven't and you're in the wrestling bubble, interesting strategy by Sean right there. But if you're just somehow not in the wrestling bubble, let me rephrase that. If you're in the wrestling bubble and you haven't actually heard about this or anything like that, obviously what I'm alluding to is the Raja Jackson beatdown. So just figured I would talk about it, though, and my opinions on that unfortunate situation. And I've watched quite a few videos on it. All the big YouTubers, Maven, Stevie Richards, Dutch Mantel, they've all covered it. Even Moist Critical, it's mainstream at this point. It goes beyond wrestling itself, likely because of Raja, and obviously he's the son of Rampage Jackson, who I don't really know anything about, but I will say obviously I've heard of him, and I know he's a big MMA fighter and stuff like that, and he's pretty rich and stuff. And unfortunately, so just to summarize the situation very quickly, so I guess I don't even know what he was invited there for, but Raja Jackson was invited to a indie wrestling promotion. I forget what it was called exactly, but I think Rikishi runs it, along with another one of his NOI family. And I don't think Rikishi was there at all. I think it's just he owns and helps run the promotion and stuff like that. So I don't think he had anything to do with this really. But once again, I don't really know the details of how this all got started. And it's even WWE affiliated, one of the few indie promotions that is, I guess, which is interesting. But they brought in Raja Jackson, and I guess he streams on Kick. And so he has this camera that he brings in, and then there's just this guy who, got beat up. I should say assaulted. Was Syko Stu. I want to keep saying Syko Sid, but no, it's Syko Stu. And he's this Army veteran guy who uses wrestling to, help with his PTSD. And he has, for the last 15 years, so he's a veteran of the business as well. And he went and he just is upon seeing Raja Jackson and stuff like that. It didn't seem like he even knew who he was, but he's seen a guy with a camera in really good shape, probably in better shape than anybody else there, honestly. And he walked up to him, took a gimmicked can of beer, from what I hear. So it's gimmicked in the sense of, I don't know exactly how, but I've heard that it was gimmicked in the sense of it was going to immediately crumble upon impact. Kind of like how the tables are gimmicked in wrestling and stuff like that. You guys know how that stuff goes. So he did that, and he smashed a gimmicked can of beer on the side of Raja's head. Regardless if you're doing that, it's going to hurt, it's going to move, it's going to sting. So Raja, obviously not being a worker, doesn't sell it really. Syko Stu is saying, hey, are you going to sell it? Raja is pretty much ready to go down right then and there. But, a bunch of the wrestlers are already there, so they were able to make sure things didn't escalate too much, and they explained to Raja, hey, it's just a work, it's no big deal. He just thought, you were another wrestler. Raja, it took him a minute to calm down and understand, but, eventually he was. Syko Stu, upon realizing, hey, this guy really isn't another wrestler, tried to apologize, extend his hand. Raja didn't want any part of it. Then eventually the promoter, I believe, one of the guys who stepped in and pretty much stopped the fight from happening. Once again, went over to Raja telling him, hey, it was just a storyline. He thought you were a part of an angle. And even, once again, and to Raja's credit, I will say, I don't really understand, even if you think, like, okay, you're always working, why the hell Syko Stu would think it would be okay to just start an angle. I feel like that's almost like, without talking about it beforehand with someone like that, you're practically, I feel like, kind of going into business for yourself. You just see a camera, see a guy you think is a wrestler, and then you automatically kind of insert yourself into something like that, and without warning, you smash a gimmick beer bottle, or beer can, on someone's head. At the end of the day, like, wrestler or not, it just seems really odd to me. I feel like Syko Stu was definitely in the wrong to do something like that. Which, I'm not in the wrestling business. Maybe I am wrong. But, and that's just a common thing where it's like, alright, well, we're here. The camera's on anyway. So, no matter what, we're already working type deal. I don't know. That said, I have heard from, other wrestlers like Maven and Stevie Richards and stuff like that, obviously they were in WWE, so they would know, and they've been on the indies and stuff like that, and they said that that's unusual behavior. So Syko Stu, I definitely think was in the wrong for that. That said, after the promoter calms Raja down, he says, hey, why don't we work this into an angle? We'll have you run into Syko Stu's match, and, you'll be able to get a receipt in there. Raja's all for that. And it's, after that, Raja, they shake hands like 3 times. Syko Stu apologizes like 2 or 3 more times, explains exactly what happened, why he thought, why he did what he did, thinking that, Raja was a wrestler. He's seen the camera, thought that they were going to shoot an angle of some kind. And that's why he did what he did with Raja. And you can even see the way that Syko Stu, when he did the beer can spot, you can even see it's kind of like in that wrestling style worked, overhead punch kind of thing. It was, and once again, they shook hands like 3 times. Raja said, hey, it's alright, man, don't worry about it. He understood and all this other stuff. And that was after the promoter said, hey, you can run into the ring and just, get a receipt, get your vengeance, yada yada. With the obvious intention of, oh, well, in a working sense, like it's going to be a run-in. But with that said, there's also another clip on Raja's kick stream, because this is probably the biggest thing, is he recorded every single moment before he ran into the ring, including backstage segments, who he was talking to. And this isn't a work, this is just him live streaming his experience at this wrestling event. And I don't remember his name, but I do remember seeing an interview, I'll talk about it later, but I do remember seeing an interview about the guy, we'll just call him Cowboy. He's just a guy with a cowboy hat on, and he was initially involved in, breaking up the fight between Raja and Syko Stu out in their first encounter with the beer can. And, right before, the show seems like it's about to start, this cowboy guy, he's talking with Raja, saying, hey, make sure you get your receipt, lay it in, stuff like that. And, if there's any sort of issue where Syko Stu is refusing to acknowledge that receipt or fights back or any way, the cowboy guy said, hey, I'll go out there and I'll help you out. And a lot of people, I think that guy definitely has some sort of, whether it's wrestling or not, I feel like that guy definitely, it wasn't an angle, it wasn't this, storyline that they were telling or anything like that. You know, it was like a behind-the-scenes thing or something like that. It definitely came across as like this cowboy dude is just saying, yeah, go out there and kick the shit out of this Syko Stu guy. It wasn't in a working way. He didn't explain, hey, you know, just give him a hard shot, but don't put all your force into it. Hit him with a receipt, meaning like, you know, one time or something like that. He said, lay it in, and, you know, if you have any trouble, I'll go out there and I'll help you. So then, obviously, when it comes to time for the match to start with Syko Stu, Raja is saying on his stream once again, you know, that, hey, you know, I don't play that way. When the time comes, I'm going to kick the shit out of this guy, essentially. I think he even may have said something along the lines of, I'm not stopping until he's dead. That may be an over-exaggeration, but I think he said something similar to that, like he's not stopping until someone pulls him off. That's what it was. And the whole time, his kick chat is hyping him up, saying, hey, you know, Syko Stu can't get away with that, you know, show him your man, yada yada, you know, stuff just to instigate things. I mean, that's just how it is with a lot of streamers, you know, they stream and, you know, a lot of people are watching the stream, you know, with certain people that want them to just get in trouble and do stupid shit and get in fights and all sorts of stupid stuff for money and attention and stuff like that. I mean, we don't have to go over. God damn it, I lost. Alright, whatever. It is what it is. Wasn't a big match. But I don't know, I can't handle the submissions, I guess. But like I said, I don't have to go over how all the lame stuff about what streamers do and harassing other people, but either way, his kick stream was hyping Raja up. You know, getting him more angry, getting him, you know, putting thoughts into his head and stuff like that. So when the time came for the run-in, Raja runs in. Syko Stu, you know, he gets picked up for the slam. You can even still see he has a smile on his face, I'm pretty sure. And then Raja slams Syko Stu down as hard as he can. Full on, you know, throw, over the shoulder throw. And the impact seems to be when, you know, like Syko Stu's head hitting the mat after that slam seems to be the thing that knocked him out. So then the Raja dude gets on top of this, you know, seemingly unconscious Syko Stu, and he just unloads, you know, like 10 plus shots. Full on, you know, arms leaning entirely back, you know, turning his body, you know, full on trained punches, you know. It seems like all his power going into it. The ref is not doing anything. There is one wrestler who is trying to pull Raja off, but he's like very uncomfortable and nervous. Probably not wanting to be next, I'm guessing. So he tries to do it. Raja pushes him off really easily. Then he tries to do it again, and once again, not really stopping anything. And this whole time, you know, Syko Stu, while unconscious, is being, you know, punched with, you know, the full might, I assume, of Raja. And I can't remember the wrestler's name, but there is another guy that comes in. You know, he is a lot bigger, and he is able to at least get Raja off of Syko Stu. And he even did an interview. You know, the guy who pulled Raja off of Syko Stu did an interview and talked about his experiences with it and why he was the one. You know, he said nobody else was jumping in. He had to push past a whole bunch of other people. He felt that everybody in the business didn't really understand what was going on. That's why they didn't do it, and that, you know, he still thought it was inexcusable, and that if he didn't jump in, and I believe him on this one too, if he hadn't jumped in and saved Syko Stu himself by pulling Raja off, that Syko Stu would probably be dead at this point. 'Cause it's not a work, it's not an angle, it's Raja literally just because of a minor beer can thing and something that should have theoretically been cleared up. because Psycho Stu, explained his actions, apologized multiple times. They shook hands like 3 times. Something you would think that would be completely, fine, and, just that kind of stuff, like squashing the beef and stuff like that. Apparently Raja just thought to himself, well, I'm going to say that I'm good, but then when the time comes, because the promoter already said I can do a run-in, that's when I'm going to, when his guard is down, slam him as hard as I can, and, when he's unconscious, I'm going to just hit him as many times as I can. And those are pretty much his words. I'm going to keep going until someone stops me. And unfortunately, there is a lot of, once again, it wasn't a whole bunch of wrestlers storming the ring to get it to stop or anything like that. It was one guy, pretty much, and then after that, there were a few people after the fact that did help the wrestler hold Raja in the corner and stuff like that. And Raja did get out and escaped, and the final moments on his kick stream, I believe, is him just, being angry and hyped up and saying, he doesn't play that and play these games, and he's not a bitch, and he's tired of people calling him a bitch and stuff like that. And, well, he just kind of did the biggest bitch move you could ever pretty much do in life, and that's, literally had Syko Stu, gave him a false sense of security, thinking everything was fine, everybody understood each other, we were just gonna work, it was gonna be, a wrestling type thing, everybody understands their role, everybody understands that, what happened earlier with the beer can was just, it was a work, it was, a misunderstanding, everybody's cool. And then when in the ring, when Syko Stu still thinks everything's cool, that's when he took advantage of him. Raja took advantage of Syko Stu, and then that's when he just unloaded on him. And I can't think of any type of situation, that could be considered any more cowardly than that kind of thing right there. You're literally tricking someone into laying their guard down so that way you can do what you want with them. That is definitely the biggest bitch move I've ever heard. That said, I don't know what Raja has been through. I don't know Rampage Jackson or anything like that. I've heard some quotes. I guess the thing that everybody's talking about is how Rampage Jackson quoted something, put something on Twitter or Facebook, and he said, I set college funds aside from my 2 of my sons, and then I have bail money set aside for Raja. Obviously there's some sort of really bad relationship there. Apparently, Rampage and Raja got into a fight in which I believe Raja was hospitalized or something like that by his dad. So obviously there's a really terrible, shitty relationship going on with that. I don't know. I don't think that excuses Raja's actions, but obviously, he was struggling with a lot. He even apparently was in the middle. I think Rampage made a statement on it saying that, Raja had a concussion, but that said, it doesn't excuse the, in my opinion, attempted murder of Syko Stu, especially over something so small, something that they thought they squashed. And it's a terrible, it's probably going to be known as one of the worst incidents in wrestling history, honestly, because it's just, I believe they said Syko Stu he's better. I think he's at home resting, what someone said, and I think that's the guy who ended up saving him, because I think he was in contact, and I think that was as far as the contact with Syko Stu has gone. There's a GoFundMe page for Syko Stu. I'm assuming to help with medical bills and all sorts of other stuff, and it's just it's a really sad situation. But I don't know. I'm hopeful that at some point, Raja is going to get the punishment he deserves. I can't think of any other case that is just this well documented, because he was streaming all day So I mean, he didn't hide it. It wasn't just like, you know, you maybe seen an angry face, you know, and you can guess and think to yourselves, oh, you know, you can infer maybe Raja at this point was thinking about this stuff and, you know, his premeditation. It's him saying exactly everything he wanted to do. The situation that occurred that led up to this incident, the incident of, you know, Raja beating Syko Stu in the ring. There's even footage of like the guy who was like holding the camera. There's even footage of him looking around the crowd and then just like, you know, videotaping their faces, you know, their horrified faces. There's kids crying. Apparently Syko Stu's mom was in the crowd as well. So a really sad, tragic event. And it was all caught on camera. It's all something that everybody can watch. There's so many clips. There's the clip of the cowboy guy telling Raja to weigh in his stuff and get his receipt. So hopefully he gets some sort of punishment too. Like, I think there's some people that might be thinking to themselves, oh, well, you know, the cowboy guy was just talking about it in a working sense. I don't know if I 100% agree. He doesn't come across like he is. He comes across as like a guy who really is wanting him to... He probably didn't expect Raja to do what he did in the ring, but I think he probably wanted to see Raja, you know, throw a real legit punch at Syko Stu. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen with this case. But like, I feel like there's more than enough evidence to show that this guy definitely needs, in my opinion, at least 10 years minimum behind bars. You know, Raja, I mean, if it wasn't going to be this, I feel like it would have been something else type deal with Raja. He has he has to have some sort of mental health issue or something like that. He just does not seem like someone who can function in society. To do something like this, you know, over, once again, something, a perceived disrespect and all this other stupid stuff, and, you know, letting your kick chat get the better of you in that sense too, you know, oh, calling you a bitch, yada yada, I'm not a bitch, which, I mean, you are because of the way you went about it, as well as, you know, beating an already unconscious man. Like, how is that tough in any way? It's just so cowardly. And even after that, I think they even, once again, on his kick stream the whole time, there's even like a call. I think his dad was the one who called him and said, hey, this guy, Syko Stu, he is not in good health. He essentially said he flatlined, right? Which meant, you know, there was probably a good chance that he was going to die. I don't think it got to that point. I don't really know the exact details, but, you know, I think in the ring, Syko Stu, they said he was choking on teeth and blood. And, you know, obviously there was just, he got beat down, you know, by a trained MMA fighter. If he doesn't leave this without any if he leaves this without any permanent brain damage, he's a lucky ass dude, Syko Stu. I mean, those are just like 10 plus unprotected shots. And, you know, when Rampage Jackson told his son Raja about, you know, how bad of a shape this Syko Stu guy was in, Raja just kind of casually said, oh, my bad. So, I mean, I don't know. I think there's some people that do feel bad for Raja, and maybe they know a little bit more about how his dad treated him, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You can't treat other human beings like that. You can't take your issues out on someone like that. And I think there's a few people who still don't understand, who are not in the wrestling business and don't understand what it means to work and the significance of, you know, having the gimmick beer can and smashing it on Raja's head and stuff like that. I'm sure there's quite a few people that think that Syko Stu was actually trying to start some real shit or something like that. I don't know. For them, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Obviously, there's also just people that in any situation that ever happens anymore, there's always just going to be people that are defending it just for the sake of being trolls or the contrarians or something like that, you know. So you can't really pay those people any mind either. But I mean, I really do hope Raja gets some sort of prison time. I remember even seeing this one. It was like a short of the incident. I can't remember his name. It was something like Warrior. And I don't think he was like I think he was an MMA guy rather than a wrestling guy or something. Because one of the comments was, you know, I hope Raja gets, you know, at least 10 years for this. And the guy who uploaded the video said, I sure hope not. And then the guy asked why. He's like, 'cause, you know, these are the kind of things that can be learned better on the streets than in prison. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with this dude? You know, the uploader of the video, like, what the hell is he even talking about? Like, I don't even think it's like, oh, you know, we'll have these guys kick his ass on the street or something like that, or something weird, like some vigilante stuff. But, like, I really don't. I think the guy's just kind of a jackass or something. I don't really think he understands how punishments work and the implications of the crime or something. I don't really know what to say about it. But it was definitely a really weird back and forth, and he kind of did that with everybody in the comment section. It was just kind of like, you know, he kind of talked about the beer can incident thing of like people asking why he did it. Once again, it really just seemed like he didn't understand. What the hell? Stupid referee. Always making me look bad. But it seemed like the uploader of that video just didn't understand wrestling or anything like that. So, once again, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. But, I mean, I think up to this point, I covered everything about the situation that I've seen and I've noticed when it comes to all this stuff. I mean, there's an interview with the wrestler who, you know, once again saved Syko Stu from getting a total beatdown, and you know, he filled in some blanks. There's also a link to his GoFundMe and stuff like that. I'm gonna try and see if I can put that in the comment section, not the comment section, the description below as well, if you want to support Syko Stu and stuff. Because I'm sure he's definitely gonna need it at this point, you know, very least, you know, love and support. But it's like I said. I mean, I said it like 3 times. It's just a very tragic, sad situation, and yeah, I mean, I'm really. It kind of irritates me just thinking about the whole situation that Raja just took advantage of that. You know, Syko Stu. I don't know. Like, once again, the most cowardly thing you could ever do to someone, I think, personally. It's the equivalent of, like, you know, you're in a gunfight. You're in a, I guess we'll go with a knife fight. Then, you know, you say, hey, you know, this is ridiculous. Let's put our knives down. You shake hands, and then you know, have another knife up your sleeve, and you're poison the guy or something like that. It's a treacherous move that Raja did. He made it seem like everything was cool before he went and just exploded on the Syko Stu. And once again, I mean, I think you should know this by now already. I think I've said it like 3 times, but it was not a wrestling angle. Which, I don't know, maybe they're gonna come out and say, like, yeah, it was actually an angle, guys, and Raja versus Syko Stu is gonna be in like 6 months or something like that, but I don't think that's gonna be the case. But that said, I mean, I just realized I didn't really do the question of the day today, guys. So, question of the day: favorite ruthless aggression era match. So I was originally going to talk all about that, my favorite match in the series and stuff like that. But you know, I'll say this whole Raja Jackson incident happened, so I don't know. I'd have to say one of my favorite ruthless aggression era matches, probably the WrestleMania 22 night. WrestleMania 22 Money in the Bank was really good. The RVD versus John Cena One Night Stand 2006 was really cool as well. I really like Batista versus Triple H. Benoit winning the bout at WrestleMania 20 was also great. So, I mean, there was definitely a lot of really awesome matches that you could choose from with a variety of superstars involved. But you guys let me know down below which one is your favorite Ruthless Aggression era match, as well as what you think on the Raja Jackson situation too. But that's going to be all for today, folks. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. Check out next week's episode. We're going to do the month of October next Wednesday on Wrestling Wednesday. But above all else, please remember to have a nice day.